Let's start with week 4 in the NFL. And I said going into week 4, I loved my picks. Now we did go 12-4 in the money line. By the way, that does include the tie between the Packers and Cowboys. I do not count ties when it comes to the money line because I consider that a loss. So, just for the record there. And then in best bets, I did end up going 4-4-5. So I went 12-4 in the money line. That puts me at 44-20 so far on the year in the money line. Last year in week 4, I was 37-27. So that's a 7 game difference. I am 13 for 20 so far in best bets. I was also 13-20 last year in best bets for week 4. So we are on a good track there. As a reminder, in the bets, I took the Lions to cover 8.5. I took Atlanta plus 1.5 against the Commanders. I took Houston to cover 7.5 against Tennessee. I took New England to cover 5.5 against Carolina. All four of those were easy. Might miss Jackson Dart. I had the Chargers minus 6.5. Giants got me. Chargers offensive line issues galore. Giants obviously upset the Chargers, which was really the one big upset of the weekend. And besides that, in my opinion, most of these results were not that shocking. Like, for instance, it wasn't shocking that Seattle beat Arizona. I picked Arizona because it's a division rival. It's at home. I had high hopes for Arizona this year more than Seattle. That was more of a personal pick. Sam Darnold has definitely played better than Kyler Murray and certainly played better than him. Seattle dominated this whole game. They were up 20-6 until about 6 minutes left in the game. Arizona got 2 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe that was his breakout moment. You hope so if you are an Arizona Cardinals fan. And the one thing I will say about this is there is one team in the league that I just do not understand, and that's Seattle, because I know Jackson Smith and Jigba is a really good player. I'm not sure he's a top 10 wide receiver. Leonard Williams is a very good defensive lineman. I don't think he's top 10 in the league anymore. Devin Witherspoon, and Tariq Woolen, they're good corners. I don't know if they're top 10 corners in the league. And that's about it for their best players. So I don't know if Seattle definitively has a great player on the roster. Or at least you look at, Arizona has Trey McBride. They have Will Johnson, who was out Thursday night, but he's a terrific young corner already. I think he's top 5, top 6 corner in this league. And obviously McBride, top 3 tight end. Like, I don't see a top 5 player in a position on the Seattle Seahawks roster. I think they have a bunch of good between 11 and 15 players. And Sam Darnold's played like a top 5 quarterback, and that may be the difference because Sam looks very comfortable in that Clint Kubiak system. And Mike McDonald's defense in year 2, you're starting to see the resemblance of what he built in Baltimore. They're flying around the football, and the Ravens obviously definitely miss him. So I don't know. Maybe Seattle was my one whiff on the season. Pittsburgh, everybody talked me into taking Minnesota. Everybody loved the Vikings. In the back of my head, I thought the Steelers could win this game, but we saw how Aaron Rodgers has struggled against Brian Flores in his career. He didn't need to struggle because Kenneth Gainwell, taking over for Jalen Warren, ran the ball down their throat, and Pittsburgh has been able to run the ball in 5 years. Um, and in my opinion, the Steelers, that was the best game they played in about 5 years. Aaron Rodgers had time. He did not get sacked. He got the ball out quickly. DK Metcalf had an 80-yard touchdown. The defense was flying all over Carson Wentz. Yet, despite that, there was a busted coverage by Pittsburgh. Minnesota was able to get in the end zone late, cut this thing down to 3, get the ball back because Mike Tomlin decided on 4th and inches to take a delay game and punt the football, with Minnesota having no timeouts left instead of doing a quarterback sneak like they did earlier in the game with Darnell Washington pick up a first down and end the game. That I did not understand. I thought Tomlin was very conservative. I didn't think Pittsburgh deserved to win the game after that, but the bottom line is the defense got the stop. Carson Wentz was overwhelmed. Minnesota's offensive line was overwhelmed. And in the 2 games they've lost this year, home against Atlanta, Pittsburgh there in London, the Vikings offensive line or Pittsburgh and Ireland, I should say. The Vikings offensive line has gotten worked, and now they go to London to take on a very good Browns defensive line. Eagles Bucks was obviously a tale of two halves. My Eagles came out firing on all cylinders, and in the second half, I don't know what happened. Jalen Hurts did not complete a pass. It felt like to me the Bucks just started sending pressure, and they started stopping Saquon Barkley in the backfield. And again, Tyler Steen goes down, Wayne Johnson goes down. The entire right side of the offensive line is new, and the Eagles just could not adjust to it. And AJ Brown, obviously, 2 catches, 7 yards. That has to be corrected. However, when you look at the big picture here, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0. Them and the Buffalo Bills are the only two undefeated teams left in pro football this year, and the Eagles have only lost one game in the last 365 days. Maybe they're on a Kansas City Chiefs 2024 projection where they just find a way to win games, and the Eagles' last four halves offensively. First half against the Rams, disaster. Second half, against the Rams and the first half against Tampa, they can't be stopped. And the second half against Tampa was a disaster. So it's a very weird season to start. I still think they're trying to figure out how to get Saquon Barkley going because teams are just sending pressure after them. They started passing to open up the run game, and that did not seem to work at all, especially in the second half. I think Kevin Patullo needs to do a better job to get A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith involved early with a deep shot or even a screen. Like AJ Brown having 9 targets, but most of them were deep down the field, right? Like they were running a lot of curl stops. Tampa was sitting on them. I would like to see more of a double move and take a shot. I'd like to see better protection in the pass game, specifically with this Philadelphia offensive line. And there are some things that need to work on. The defense, though, is still amazing. Now, they're not getting the pass rushers consistent without Nolan Smith. Za'Darius Smith is stepping up big in his absence. Achoro made a big play on that last drive to get inside and sack Baker Mayfield, who just would not give up. The bottom line is Tampa Bay's 2 touchdowns were on 2 broken plays. The great throw from Baker to Ajigba and the throw to Rashad White down the sideline. So the Eagles defense played really well. It does feel like the Eagles go into sort of this shell where it's like they get the lead and then they just go very conservative, oddly, because they trust their defense so much and they got to hold on, but they are still finding ways to win games. Then, listen, the Browns offense is the worst offense in football. The Lions covering was an easy 8.5. Jared Goff does his thing. Didn't even play that great, but defense and special teams and a punt return and 2 bad interceptions by Joe Flacco, who Kevin Stefanski did leave the door for Dylan Gabriel to potentially start this weekend in London against the Vikings. We'll see. Browns need a spark. Lions were the better team. And I said I wasn't going to be fooled by Marcus Mariota 2 weeks in a row. That was an anomaly against the Raiders. I said Atlanta played terrible against Carolina. I said this is one of the best bets on the board. Michael Penix in a dome plays a lot better than Michael Penix outside. Atlanta needed to get to 2-2, especially with the way that division is going. They did so. They take care of business. And this was again one of the least surprising upsets of the day. Michael Penix had time. He was comfortable. Marcus Mariota drove down the field, had some nice moments, but the Commanders, I said it going into the year. Everybody fell in love with this team because they won, 11, 12 games. They made the NFC Championship game, but they did not upgrade their defense in the offseason. Their defense is still Swiss cheese. I was worried about the status of Terry McLaurin, and he didn't even play in this past game. So no Terry McLaurin, no Jaden Daniels. It's an asterisk for the Commanders, but they still, even with Daniels and McLaurin, I've argued for the first 4 weeks, do not look as explosive as they were a year ago. And this was a weird game. Again, Chargers Giants. This was the upset of the game. Joe Alt goes down for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's a big loss for the Chargers. And Joe Alt was carted out with a lower leg injury. Um, it does not say here whether he is going to be out for the season or not. It did sound pretty significant. So we'll see. And I said going into the year, The Giants' offense is going to be bad, but they have the best defensive line in football, and that's a one thing in the game. Yes, Jackson Dart had a rushing touchdown. Yes, the offense looked better, but they really still couldn't move the ball in the second half. And now Malik Neighbors is out for the year. Unless they trade for a wide receiver, this offense is going to be a pop gun offense. I'm expecting a lot of blitzes thrown at Jackson Dart. And this next week, if the Saints are going to win a game, it's going to be next week at home against the Giants. It's definitely a stay away game. Depending on the Joe Alt injury, because now that they don't have Slater and Alt, that completely changes the Chargers offense, in my opinion, moving forward. But I still think they should be the favorites at this point to win the AFC West because of Kansas City's schedule. Buffalo beat New Orleans. Listen, what can I say? The Saints were embarrassed by Seattle, so they came out, they played hard, they were in the game. Buffalo was playing with their food a little bit. I just said 16 and a half was way too many points to weigh. I was right on that. Buffalo wins. Again, could the Saints potentially beat the Giants next week? That's the question. And 16 and a half was not too much to weigh for the Patriots, who just clobbered Carolina. Who this was a weird game because Carolina got out to that 6-0 lead. They were driving down the field. They don't get points in their second possession after stopping New England. And from there, it was a rout. And I said, if the Patriots want to prove to themselves that they are a potential wild card team, battle it down to the end of the year in the AFC, which looks to be down this year as opposed to recent years, they have to win this game. Drake May took care of the football, which was key. They committed less penalties than they had the first 3 weeks of the season. That was also key. And Carolina's got to figure this out because Bryce Young, as much as I liked how he played at the end of last year, they decided to run it back, give it one more shot. I like Dave Canales. I think he's a smart guy. But this is a heavy lift for Carolina, and I don't think Bryce Young is the guy. So this game was 6-0 going into the fourth quarter, and then the Texans just pulled away. Tennessee missed a couple of field goals early that could have changed the trajectory of this game, but the Titans are just bad. They have no offensive line, they have no receivers, they have no defense. You want to talk about a total rebuild. This is a total rebuild, and Houston needed this in the worst way. There's been all those rumors this week about something brewing in Houston with CJ Stroud. The offense has not meshed in 2 years. Their offensive line is still not good. They can beat the bad teams in the division, but right now, the way Jacksonville and even Indianapolis looks, they're the third best team in that division, and I think definitively. I picked Jacksonville to upset San Francisco. I was right. I said the Nick Bosa injury was going to have a huge impact. I didn't even know who was going to start a quarterback for San Francisco, and it ended up being Brock Purdy, who did turn the ball over 3 times. And Jacksonville may not be getting a lot of stops on defense, but they're doing this year what they did not do last year, and that was create turnovers. And Liam Cohen again has Trevor Lawrence playing the best he's played in 3 years. He's getting the ball out decisively. He's not holding out of the football. He's playing in rhythm. He looks very comfortable, and they haven't even really fully implemented Travis Hunter into the offense yet. So Jacksonville looks very good. They look for real. And the Niners, in my opinion, they really are just too banged up. No George Kittle, no Nick Bosa. Those are two of the top 5 players on the entire team. And it's basically now a McCaffrey or Ricky Pearsall offense, and Pearsall was in and out of the lineup with an injury, and so then it turns into McCaffrey or bust. Now they go to the Rams, who, McVay has struggled historically in the past against Shanahan, but the Rams are humming right now. They're 3-1. They beat the Colts, all because Adonis Mitchell decided to throw the ball to the back of the end zone. NFL players do this all the time. I don't understand why. It's the biggest what if in football. Just cross the goal line and then let the football go. Why do you gotta pitch the ball back or throw the ball back out of the stands? I would always just set the ball down. I was never a big touchdown celebration guy. I think scoring a touchdown is hard enough. Get back to the huddle and let's go and let's strategize. The big play in this game was obviously Tutu Atwell's big touchdown, and the Rams getting the interception on Daniel Jones, the last drive of the game. The Colts hung in there. I mean, credit to them. This could have been a blowout. On paper, the Rams are much better. Are the Colts for real? And again, outside of that Mitchell touchdown, if he finishes that play off, you can make a real chance. If the defender doesn't fall on that 2-2 out play, the Colts have a real chance to win this game. So if I'm a Colts fan, I'm more encouraged than discouraged. I do think the Rams, though, prove they are better, and maybe Indianapolis is a year away. Then how about special teams? Changing the day here for the Bears, who Caleb Williams did not play great. Ashton Genty had easily his best day in a Raiders uniform. Maybe it's just the Bears' run defense is bad, or maybe the Raiders are finally starting to lock their all-star running back from Boise State 4 games into his rookie year. But Caleb made the plays when it counted, and Rome Odunze all of a sudden has popped as their number one receiver. It looks like even more so than DJ Moore. There's a lot of conversation in Chicago about whether or not the Bears would be willing to trade DJ Moore at this point because of Rome Odunze and Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, who they haven't even unlocked yet at tight end, and Cole Kmet's still there. They need defensive help. They need defensive line out specifically to stop the run, to stop the pass. Um, but the Bears are 2-2, and I said this was a defining game for the Bears season. You start off 0-2, you look pretty bad the second half against Minnesota, you look terrible against Detroit, but then you go and you beat Dallas and you beat Vegas, and you're going in your bye week at 2-2, and you're trying to get revenge on the Commanders who ended your season last year in the Fail Mary game. Big defining game for the Bears in week 2. For the Raiders, they start off 1-0. They've lost 3 straight. Did not look good against the Chargers or Commanders at all. They played a better game than the Bears. They should have won the game, but they did not execute on special teams. And that's the story of this game for me. Maybe I was a little bit overzealous on the Raiders, who are now clearly in last place in the division, and they're probably going to finish in last place. I just thought new head coach, new quarterback, big upgrade. But the difference here is Geno Smith already has 6 interceptions on the year. He is turning the football over at an alarming rate. Speaking of alarming, Baltimore. I thought this was going to be a low scoring game. The Chiefs just took apart the Ravens defense, who are second to last or last in every statistical measurement. Xavier Worthy being back completely opened the Kansas City offense. Lamar Jackson goes out in the third quarter with a hamstring injury. It sounds legit. And I say this because the game was already out of hand when he went out of the game. Sounds like he could miss this game. I believe they play the Texans in week 5. If Lamar was for sure playing, I'd take Baltimore. They're going to be a desperate team of 1-3, way more desperate than the Texans, because the Texans had playoff aspirations, the Ravens had Super Bowl aspirations. That's the difference there. Their defense is getting thrown apart. They can't stop the pass at all. And that was the best game Mahomes has played, probably since he had Tyreek Hill on his roster. And then I said, do not take Green Bay minus 6.5. I said it was a trap. I said Dallas hurt all week. They're going to get blown out of this game without CeeDee Lamb. And Michael Parsons was going to wreak havoc. And I said none of it was going to happen. And I was correct on it. I said Green Bay was going to win a close one. And they probably should have. But they gave up 40 points to a Cowboy offense that just mostly had George Pickens on the outside. And after the Packers' defense was amazing the first 3 weeks of the season, they got absolutely torched. And Dallas' offense, I gotta give credit to Brian Schottenheimer. They can put up points. It's Matt Eberflus's defense that is letting down the Cowboys right now and why they're in all these shootouts. And I always say, when you're on that side of the ball, offensive or defensive, if you're a good head coach, what I always said about Robert Saleh with the Jets, the defense was always good, which shows me you know that side of the ball. I think Brian Schottenheimer, we may have all overlooked him because he never got head coaching duties and whatever, but clearly he's the perfect coordinator for Dak Prescott, who's very comfortable with him. The offense looks very good. It's just without Michael Parsons, they have no pass rush. And Jordan Love had plenty of time, and Green Bay's offense always looks good, and Romeo Doubs had 3 touchdowns, and this was just beautiful offensive football down the stretch. Touchdown, touchdown, back and forth. Green Bay's clock management at the end of the game was terrible, but Um, Dolphins beat the Jets, Broncos beat the Bengals. There's not a ton to say about these Monday night games. Besides, the Dolphins have played well the last 2 weeks. I still don't think long term they're going to be a very good football team. The Jets may have some issues because outside of week one, Justin Fields has played terrible. Now, he didn't get the concussion in week two. This was his first game back. But they are turning the football over at an alarming rate. They cannot consistently get the ball to Garrett Wilson. And their defense under Aaron Glenn. And again, maybe it's like Detroit where this is going to take time, like it did Aaron Glenn's first year in Detroit. But they had pieces last year. And ever since Robert Saleh got fired, the defense has not been the same. They haven't been the same this year. And now they take on a Cowboys team who's firing on all cylinders, who's very familiar with MetLife Stadium because they play there every year against the Giants. I don't know. It feels like a weird matchup there. And then Denver just took apart Cincinnati, who did not get into the red zone after the first drive. Bengals had one good drive. They kicked a field goal. It was all Broncos after that, who just took care of business. They had two close losses. They were playing pissed off. Now they go to Philly on Sunday to take on the Eagles. So again, the way I look at the NFL this year, like the Ravens are 1-3, and even though Lamar may not play, it's going to be Cooper Rush potentially against the Texans. Even if they fall to 1-4, I'm still not counting Baltimore out of the playoff race. The AFC North with Pittsburgh being 3-1 is a little bit of a surprise. But the biggest surprise of the afternoon was the Giants beating the Chargers. And outside of that, like you could see Seattle beating Arizona. You could see Pittsburgh beating Minnesota. I picked every other game right outside of the tie between Green Bay and Dallas. And I said Dallas was going to keep this close. I said if I was on a side, I'd take Dallas plus 6.5. So there's not really a ton of surprises in the NFL this year, in my opinion, to this point. Since we've been doing this for 5 years, where I take the money line every game, I do 5 picks in best bets. This is by far my best start to the money line of the year. It's because I'm taking the better quarterback and I'm taking the better team. And most of the time it's working out. 4 for 5 in best bets. Chargers stopped us from having a perfect week. Let's see if we can bounce back in week 5. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.